Hi there, my name is Will and I'm a developer advocate at Kestra. Today I'm going to be showing you how you can sync your namespace files with your Git repository to make sure that they are always up to date. Jumping into Kestra, I have 3 namespace files inside of my Git repository that are currently not in Kestra. These files being my example.js, py, and sh files. I can use the new SyncNamespaceFiles task to make sure that these are inside of Kestra, so let's give that a go. Very similar to our sync flows task in our previous video, we can see that this has very similar properties, but this is only going to sync our namespace files, just giving us that little bit of flexibility to control whether we want to sync namespace files or flows separately. Now, similar to that, I'm going to be getting my files from the main branch of the repository and I'm going to be putting them in the dev namespace, and it's going to be looking specifically in the _files folder in our Git repository, which is where our files are. So if I give this a go, we'll be able to see it work in action. And as we can see from the dry run, it wants to add all 3 of those files, and we can also check under the outputs tab and see all 3 of those files will be added to the namespace. So let's toggle dry run off and see what happens. Now, when I execute this, we can see that it has successfully added those files. And if we head over to the dev namespace and look in our example here, we will see all 3 of those files are now available for any of our flows in the dev namespace. Again, similar to sync flows, we can also set up triggers to automatically keep our files in sync with Kestra. So we can set up a schedule, or we can set up a webhook, which would be my preferred option. That means every single time something is pushed to our Git repository, it will automatically get synced with our Kestra instance. Let's give that a go. As you can see here, I've added my webhook trigger and I've added the key A, B, C, D, E, F, G. If I head over to GitHub, I can create a webhook and add this in. Going to the settings of our repository, we can go to webhooks, where we can click add webhook and add our payload URL. This is going to be your host name. Unless you're using localhost, then you will need to use a service like ngrot to be able to tunnel your Kestra instance to the internet. But assuming that you've hosted Kestra and you've got a domain, that will be here. And then API/v1/execution/webhook. Then you're going to put in the namespace. So in this case, system, then the flow ID, and then lastly, your key. And because the key is in the URL here, we can leave secret blank. And once you've done that, select enable SSL verification and just the push event, and we can press add webhook and we're ready to go. Doing that means that now every single time we push to our repository, that will trigger this flow to execute and then sync those files with our Kestra instance. Hopefully you found that useful, and this will make version control inside of Kestra an absolute breeze going forward. However, we'd love to hear your thoughts, so if you have any feedback for us, do let us know in the comments, or you can join our Slack community where we can continue the conversation there.